spell your first and last name and then your title here?
Heather Rosentrader, and Heather Heather, Rosentrader, Rosentrater, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Energy Delivery and Shared Services
For Avista.
for Avista. Yep.
So can you sort of explain how Avista is dealing with this heat right now?
So I know we all know that we're experiencing unprecedented heat wave that's impacted our customers today, and we planned for this. We had the forecast. We communicated with our customers proactively about what was coming. We took measures on our system to reconfigure and move load around to prepare for the additional load that we knew we would see on the system. And the temperatures that we experienced caused our system to react in a way that was unanticipated. We saw much more significant loads than expected. We have a new summer peak on the system today, and the historic temperatures as well were a cause. And we saw our equipment get to its limits much earlier than we expected, which caused us to need to reduce load for some of our customers. And we learned a huge amount today based on the weather and the increased loads that we saw, and we have a plan for tomorrow. So our plan for tomorrow is to operate in a way that would provide more planning for our customers, and to roll out some targeted and protective measures. So the reason that when we hit those levels, and we have to reduce the load, it's to reduce longer term outages that could be caused if we didn't reduce the load proactively. So tomorrow our equipment will likely see those same limits, but the thing we can do is ask everyone to conserve across our system. Having these multiple days of really high temperatures are things that, even if the temperature is the same, if it's multiple days, it increases our load. And so if our customers can continue to conserve really throughout the rest of this week, that will limit our need for these targeted and protective outages that we are planning for tomorrow. We are planning to target 1 hour for these, and to be able to proactively notify the customers that would experience these outages. We're working on a plan. We have a proactive notification system that we have in place for our normally planned outages that we experience. So our expectation is to use that same system to be able to notify customers when those outages would occur for each of them. We have a large group of engineers and employees working right now to look at what we experienced today, and to be able to put a plan together, again, that we can communicate with customers proactively, and to target those outages to be an hour.
Were these target outages ever part of a plan that came out before today, or is this purely a reaction to the events of today?
Our system planning is planned that we don't have to shed load. That is our expectation. We do have plans in place, however, for these kinds of events, but we are intending to minimize the impact to customers and to be able to proactively communicate to them.
Has there ever been anything like this before in Avista's history, with planned outages like that?
We have not experienced this kind of demand on our system and these kinds of impacts to our system. This is very unprecedented.
I know you were saying that we're protecting so that the transformers don't blow, because if the transformer blows, it's going to take several hours, if not
Days.
more than a day, several days to be able to fix them. When was the last time that infrastructure was upgraded or technology was upgraded?
We have regular programs that look at the asset condition, asset age, asset condition of all of our infrastructure. And so we're regularly, we have over 150 substations. And so we're regularly looking at we have an asset management program, and we're regularly looking at the condition, all of those, and have programs on an annual basis to update it based on their condition.
So when we see substation is the reason on the Avista outage map as the reason for an outage, does that mean it's one of the planned rolling blackouts that we
Well, yes, that's what it was characterized as today. In the future, we're working on it will be labeled as weather because it's the heat that's really causing the outage.
So for people who have lost power tonight, my boss just lost power. There's been no notification.
Okay.
How are you addressing that tonight?
I would say it's unlikely that if it was tonight, that it was caused based on the heat. There's other outages, car hit poles, other things that can cause outages on our system. So I would look at the cause of it, and if it's, I guess our expectation is that we would have all of the customers that were impacted by the outages that were caused by weather, by the heat today, they would be restored by this evening. That is the plan. That's the expectation.
Are there currently people in these rolling blackout outages as we speak tonight still?
We had one circuit that still had customers out when I last looked. I don't.
About 30 minutes ago, that was the case.
But our intent is within the next hour or two that all customers would be restored that were impacted based on the weather today.
So how much time do you think people will have in advance, I guess tomorrow, even if how early are they starting and how much advance notice are people going to get before they need to make plans to not have power?
Right. So the times on our system that usually cause issues are between 1 and 8 o'clock. And so again, the conservation, that's when we really would ask people to conserve is between that time frame. So that's when the outages would likely occur, is in that early afternoon to early evening time period. And we're working on that getting the communication out as early as possible. We don't have a time period yet to be able to say we'll have the communication out by this time, but we're working on getting it out as soon as possible.
Do you think we're going to end up being like 3 minutes advance notice,
Oh,
power's about to go out, or do you think about a couple
yes,
hours?
absolutely. That's our goal, and that's why we're doing it in this planned way, is to be able to give several hours of notice for these planned, targeted, protective outages.
I know that I get an alert from Avista as a text message. What about for my grandma who lives and doesn't have a cell phone,
Right.
she lives in town? Is she going to get a phone call, or is there a map that we can share to say Hilliard's going to have outages from here to here? And
One of the things we're asking our customers is to go in and update their communication preferences. So some customers have given their email, some have given text, some have given phone numbers. And so we encourage them to update those preferences so that they get the communication.
Now, obviously, this is unprecedented weather event, but it's not likely that it's going to never happen again, especially with climate change. So is Avista working on a long-term solution to, maybe prevent this from having to be an annual occurrence?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is our first, so absolutely, we'll be learning from this. We've learned from what we experienced today. Our philosophy is continuous improvement. Learn from what we experienced, modify our plan based on those learnings, and that's what we'll be doing with this event.
So when it comes to conserving power, I mean, there are residents who have pets and elderly who kind of rely on that air conditioning and that fan to work. What are the kind of best practices to conserve power while still staying cool?
Right.
It seems like using power is like the only option.
Yes. And we aren't saying that people need to turn off their air conditioning. I personally did because I wanted to, do my part. But just by increasing their air conditioning a few degrees can be very helpful. And even, having it normal before 1 o'clock, but then, pre-cooling your house and then, turning up the temperature that you have your thermostat set for once it hits 1 o'clock. If everyone, did that, it would make a big impact on the system.
Are there particular areas of the city that are seeing extra stress, or is it a universal problem?
Yes, we have the places that experience outages tomorrow. Those are the most stressed on our system, and so those are likely the areas that will have the proactive notification for those targeted 1 hour outage blocks tomorrow.
can you say where they are, what those areas are?
I don't know if the best way would be to, I know that there were some in the 5 mile area. And I'm sorry, we can get that
Okay, yeah.
for you to have a better
Great.
explanation. Mhm.
The other thing is how much of a difference is essentially the cooling system on your guys' power grid versus like the heating system. Some people were saying they didn't expect this to happen during the heat wave. They
Right.
would have rather expected this to happen during the snow.
Right, so we have to derate our equipment for the heat. And actually the other piece that was working against us was June. So we never have this kind of heat in June. It's usually July or August that we experience this. And in June, there's an additional hour of sunlight. And so that's a loss of an hour for our equipment to cool at night. So it depends on that cycle of the cooling at night to be able to handle the peaks during the day. And when we lose an hour of that cooling time, it can, have a bigger impact on our equipment. So the June timeframe, the summer timeframe really did have an impact on what we saw today.
How exactly are you deciding where to target, I guess? Is it when they near those thresholds, or just how are you going about that exactly?
Right. So today we experienced alarms on the equipment that caused immediate need to take action, or else it could have been damaged and could have caused much longer outages for customers. Tomorrow we'll have lower thresholds that we'll be watching to be able to execute on those, initiate on those targeted and protective outages.
So it's a blackout, it's a rolling blackout in the sense of wherever the threshold is crossed, but it's not like we saw in Texas during the winter where
Right.
it's rolling blackout in order to preserve energy and everyone kind of had to contribute.
Exactly. On the supply side, we're actually doing really well. Right now, it's just these constraints on our distribution system caused by, again, the unprecedented heat, the load, the very high load had, again, a peak today. So it's really the distribution system and some targeted areas on the distribution system that we're experiencing the problems.
But that equipment's been upgraded and it is current, and then within the year, you said these are yearly updates?
Well, we have 150 substations, so every year we are targeting a specific area of the system to upgrade. So it's based on condition and age, so we'll continue to do that.
Is there any indication that places that haven't been upgraded more recently are more likely to be experiencing these blackouts, or is it more random?
I don't know if we've had the time to do that kind of analysis yet.
Heather, could you mention how the system is designed and monitored around the peak? So it's part of
Right.
the infrastructure.
Right, exactly. Right. So I used to be a distribution planning engineer early on in my career, and so I'm very familiar with the process that we use. We have, we look at historic system peaks, we look at growth, so we're not just depending on what we've experienced historically, but we are recognizing, future forecasted growth, and even, if the temperatures are increasing in the future as we're seeing, to be able to plan for that. And then we have budgets and projects that we are bringing forward every year to upgrade the system to ensure that it can support, the needs that we have. And then we have the monitoring system, and that's what alerted us to the issues today. We had unexpected alerts that caused problems a lot earlier than we were expecting. And so that was, again, the learnings that we'll have from today that we'll be able to apply for tomorrow to be able to minimize, I think, giving that proactive information and then minimizing the length of those outages for customers is going to be really important.
I was going to say, today we had outages for multiple hours, and you're expecting hour.
And we're targeting 1 hour.
How are you doing that? I guess just what makes it, how did you learn today? What did you learn today that can make that apply to tomorrow that will change that time and reduce it?
Right. So what we learned today was the areas of town that that had the equipment that was getting to those limits faster than we expected. And so we're having our engineers right now be able to target different sections of those areas and be able to target them in a way that they're small enough that we can do it and rotate through that 1 to 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock time frame and have each group only be an hour. So that benefit of the planning is what's going to enable us to operate more effectively tomorrow.
So do you think you'll get enough advance notice tomorrow then? Like, 'cause I know today was like, and now we've shut it off, but it's different for tomorrow. It'll be.
Yes, that's the expectation, is that the customer experience will be very different tomorrow. They'll get forewarning and ideally several hours of forewarning, and they'll have, again, that much shorter outage.
Temperatures are expected to hit like 110 tomorrow, and I understand the need to conserve energy, but how do you speak to customers that might be skeptical about that given how hot it's going to be tomorrow?
Right, exactly. And we aren't expecting people to turn off their air conditioning. We know that that's important for themselves, for their pets, for other reasons. And so, again, if everyone can just increase the temperature a few degrees, that could really help out the entire system.
We also have on our homepage of our website
Yes.
a whole series of tips, so some other ideas for how customers might be able to do some small changes that could help.
Right.
conserve.
If you go to our website, there's a lot of other tips in addition to just air conditioning changes that customers can make to help out with the conservation.
Very good. The other thing is, where do we go from here? Obviously, you guys, as you said, we know what's going to happen the next few weeks. But from here on out, are there plans to improve?
Oh yes, I mean, again, continuous learning will take this experience and we'll incorporate it into our planning process going forward.
And if power isn't restored tonight in an hour, just what may be going wrong, I guess.
Again, we have outages that occur on our system outside of weather from car hit poles, other outside activities, and so those are likely what would be causing the other outages that if we're experiencing any right now.
If everyone went 75 degrees tomorrow, I think we could avoid this.
That would be my hope.
Okay, so we're rallying Spokane to do that. So I mean, like
Exactly.
if everybody reduced, we could potentially avoid anybody having to be in the dark.
That's our hope. But however, we're not counting on that. You know, we're planning to ensure that we don't have the unexpected or prolonged outages. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank-
We did a